Grace and peace to you in the name of the triune God, Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. Amen. Rolling out big projects takes a lot of work from a lot of people over the long haul. At the hospital, we're in the midst of a major project. We are converting to a new electronic medical record. There are probably 40 or 50 different work groups that have been dedicating hours each month to this project to make sure that the rollout goes smoothly in March. I've had a kind of a front row seat to all of this work in my own particular work group, and it's been fascinating to be a part of. There are so many moving parts to a project like this, making sure that the templates for the notes are built correctly and that all of the tasks and actions fire correctly and at the right time. Making sure that the diagnoses load properly so that the coders know how to code things properly for reimbursement. Making sure that billing happens as it's supposed to. Testing and retesting and testing again to make sure that the new medical record communicates the way it's supposed to with all of the external software that we use. Making sure that we have a training plan in place so that all of the people who will be using the new medical record know what they're doing when March 4th rolls around. And on, and on, and on. I only see my little piece of it. There are so many parts that I don't have to know about, don't have to be aware of. And this is only the second biggest project that I have been a part of. A year ago, I had no idea what we were getting into, what this year would be like. I didn't have any real understanding of what my part to play would be in this project or how much of my time and energy at my other job would be wrapped up in this. A year ago, I was more than a little nervous about this project. I hoped and believed that we would be successful, but I didn't know what it would end up looking like or what kind of a journey it would take me on, or how much I would learn along the way. A year ago, I didn't know how excited I would become about this project, how invested I would become in it, even as I came to understand more and more that I am a small but integral part to its success. I wonder if some of you felt similarly 35 years ago when you gathered for the first time to worship as a community. What were your hopes for this congregation? Did you have a vision of what All Saints could be 35 years down the road, or were your prayers looking to the weeks and months ahead? Most of us don't plan that far into the future. Too much is uncertain. There are too many possibilities for our lives to take different directions or for things to unravel or to be reformed in a new way. It's hard for us to look to that unknown future with any concrete sense of hope. The Israelites were probably experiencing this reality just prior to our text for today. They'd spent the last 70 years in exile only to have their freedom foretold by the prophet. But what would this have meant to them? Most of the people, except for possibly the very old, would never have known life in Judah. They would have been born and raised in Babylon, married other exiled Israelites, or found spouses among their Babylonian neighbors, and birthed and raised children who did not know Israel, did not know Judah. And now, they've lost their bearings. They've been told that they have been set free from the homes they know, the security they have felt, perhaps even the communities they have loved, to return to a strange land, a city that lies in ruins. I can imagine there were a range of emotions, even among devout followers of God, for whom returning to Jerusalem may have felt like returning to a spiritual homeland. There would have been joy at the end of captivity, hope at returning to the land of their ancestors, but also trepidation, anxiety, even fear over the difficulty of the journey and of their chances of survival along the way. Now, I don't mean to compare switching to a new medical record or even founding a new congregation to setting off on a long and arduous journey on foot to return to a place that is only home in theory. The fears the Israelites faced were existential and very real. But there is one commonality we can lift up. In all these scenarios, we can only see a few steps ahead of us. Sometimes the way is obscured by lack of knowledge or understanding. Sometimes the way is obscured by obstacles in the road. And sometimes the way is obscured because we just can't see over the horizon. But what keeps us on the road is faith. We trust that the way will be revealed even if we can't see right now where it is headed. And that's the promise that God offers us in the servant song in our text from Isaiah this morning. Who is this servant? Some say it's Jesus. Others say it's the people of Israel or a prophet who will come to lead the people. The text itself is ambiguous about this, and I think that's deliberate. Theologian Michael Chan points out that there are a few things we know for sure about the identity of the servant. This is a creature of hope, not history. This creature is a prayer, the way in which God's promises are fulfilled for God's people in the world. And we know some of the characteristics of this servant. They are chosen by God. God delights in them and rests God's Spirit on them. They work tirelessly to bring God's justice quietly and peacefully without using violence or causing turmoil. They are called by God and are a symbol of the covenant to the people. They illumine the way forward for those who need help to see beyond the next few steps. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? There's a reason why many people believe this text is about Jesus coming, because it certainly describes Jesus. But here's the thing. Jesus isn't the only one it describes. It also describes those who point to Jesus with their lives and actions. I want you to try a little exercise. Close your eyes and think of someone who exemplifies a follower of Christ for you. Someone who is a model of faithful living for you. It can be a person, a group of people, a community. Now, as I read again these characteristics of the servant, think about how they apply to the person or people in your mind. Chosen by God, in whom God delights, on whom God's Spirit rests, who works for justice without being angry, loud, or violent, tirelessly working for the cause of God's justice, has the support of God, is a light to those around them, is part of the new thing God is up to. Here's the thing. The ministry of the servant is a description of what the reign of God looks like anywhere, anytime. It is a description of what happens anytime someone illuminates beyond the next few steps, helping others to understand the way forward or to see past the obstacles that are in their way, or even to envision what might lay beyond the horizon if we are bold enough to step forward in faith. It's fitting that we are celebrating this anniversary during Advent, the season of waiting, of preparing for the coming of Christ. For when I think about followers of Christ who exemplify the characteristics of the servant in Isaiah, I think of you, All Saints family, who care so deeply for each other and this community, who give so generously of your time and your talents in ways that actively improve our little corner of the world, whose lives and actions are centered on who Jesus asks you to be. So many of you go quietly about your lives, bringing the light to those who can't see past the next few steps, helping to bring about God's justice for our part of the world. And this venture, right here and now, in which we are engaged, this is the single greatest project any of us will ever be involved in. With a scope so massive, we can only catch glimpses of what it will be when it is finished. And what will it be? God's justice for all the earth, and the earth returned to the way God created it. No poverty, no illness, no oppression, no violence. This is in contrast to the world's sense of justice, which so often relies on violence and oppression, on might makes right, on keeping people in their place. The world's justice is not peaceful. In fact, so often it seems to be the opposite of peaceful. But God's justice cannot be separated from God's peace. And so, on this third Sunday in Advent, when we celebrate the anniversary of this congregation which works for God's justice and peace, we await the coming of Christ, who will illumine the path for all time, who will remove the obstacles in our path and give us clear understanding, who will bring God's justice and peace finally and forever to all the world. Amen.